Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? I wanted to talk to you today about fighting inflation in D&D. And no, I don't mean like, what's going to happen when you bring a bunch of gold back from the dungeon to the local town and city. No, I'm talking about inflation in terms of things like armor class, hit points, ability score modifiers, just ability score levels themselves, all that sort of stuff. I've had a kind of change of heart about this topic over time. I started playing the game when I was relatively young, and I got introduced to AD&D, which I kind of put the blame for like inflation squarely, on first edition's shoulders, for lack of a better place to put it, because we got introduced to the idea that you had to have really high ability scores and were to have really high modifiers, and really high modifiers are really good. And so we got used to that idea. We also got used to the idea that there should be this giant armor class spread. And things like really hard opponents would have incredible armor classes, like -5 or -6, which in today's parlance would be something like 25 or 26, just really crazy high armor classes. And also we got used to the idea that you should have a lot of hit points, and that inflated more in later editions, something like D20 and Pathfinder. Got us used to the ideas that modifiers could go up to +4 rather quickly, and ability scores should be relatively high, and that hit points got even bigger and bigger. And so there's nothing wrong with this by itself, but what it tends to do, and what I've kind of had a change of heart over the time, is it tends to make you need to have your characters be very superhero-ish, and the game takes on kind of a cartoony aspect at some point, in my opinion. If you like that sort of thing, that's fine. But as I've gotten older, I've liked the idea of having things be scrunched down a little bit narrower in terms of where everything lies. And I like the basic ability score modifiers, and some people have really toyed around with the idea or used the idea where you only get maybe a maximum of +2. I don't go that far because, to be honest with you, with an honest roll, it's really hard to get an 18. It's really hard to get a +3, even if you're doing something like 3d6 drop all ones, which is probably one of the most um, generous methods of character generation. It's still really hard to roll an 18. I think it's 1 in 125 last time I checked. So +3 isn't all that easy to get. But I like the idea that characters should just have a few abilities, maybe one ability where they're really, really good at. And you don't really need to have that in order to have fun with the game. You don't need to have crazy ability scores or ability score modifiers. Likewise, you don't need to have a buttload of hit points, nor do your opponents. When you make the monsters have higher and higher armor classes, what you end up doing is you necessitate the characters, having like really high modifiers, really crazy to hit bonuses, all that sort of stuff. The other thing that I've kind of looked at more over time is the idea that like monsters needing magic weapons to hit. Well, that means now you need magic weapons or you're sunk. Uh, I like some of the motifs that people have used or methods like where you used maybe you do half damage if you use a normal weapon rather than needing this magical weapon to hit these monsters. Maybe some ultra powerful monsters. Maybe you need something like that, and that's why they're super scary. But you know, once again, as I've gotten older, I like things to be in a narrower range. I like the characters and to be kind of human, and likewise, the opponents they face, should be defeatable. I mean, even a village of angry, peasants should be able to take down something really horrible. The reason they don't is because they're scared. It's kind of like real life. When you have a threat that like a whole bunch of people that are hostages, I hate to bring like real life examples in there, could probably take out somebody, but they're scared to. So you bring in the special forces and they take this guy out. Are they that much tougher than the average person? No, they're a little better trained. They have some better weapons, but they kind of have the guts to go do that. Yeah, fighting inflation in a game is something that I've kind of gotten more and more enamored with over time. There was a time when I really wanted to have ultra powerful characters. Now I want the game to be a little bit more, I hate to use the word realistic, but I don't want to rely so much on these crazy numbers and need to have giant numbers in order to have success in the game. I like to use my wits, play the guy that's maybe a little bit better than the average bear, but have more fun playing the game and taking some risks and not watching a superhero movie.